Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Welcome to our webinar dedicated to shelf management, data-driven shelf management to be more specific. And first of all, I would like to thank you for participating. In case you have any questions during the course of the webinar, do not hesitate to ask in the chat. And first of all, I'd like to introduce ourselves. So my name is Andrej Bodi. I'm the manager of DataSentics. DataSentics is a machine learning company that serves many clients also from the retail and e-commerce industry. And my personal experience is from the FMCG sector and retail sector, and as well as data analytics. I've been in consulting and I've been working with companies in retail for about 8 years and delivered numerous projects in the area. And I'm very happy that here with us is Mr. Tibor Molnár from Nestlé, Slovakia. So please, Tibor, if you could introduce yourself.
So hi, everyone. Tibor Molnár. I'm field sales manager in Nestlé. My experience, I'm 20 years with Nestlé. Last 10 years, I'm at the position of field sales manager, and I'm responsible for the whole field sales force in Slovakia. And the categories are confectionery, dehydrated food, and coffee and beverages.
Thank you. And so we can get started. So first of all, I would like to share the content of the webinar. So we've done successfully the first part, introducing ourselves, and then we will follow with a little survey to get you know better. And then we'll go to the definition of shelf management, what it is, why it is important, why we should pay attention to it, and what are the main challenges that the business is facing every day. Then we will move on to the question how to ensure the on-shelf availability, the everlasting question of retail, and our approach that we believe when you answer three main questions that we think are important as for on-shelf availability, you'll be able to, let's say, provide your customers better and make sure that the goods are there. And in the last part, we will dedicate part of this webinar to our cooperation with Nestlé, the case study we have prepared for you. And in the last part, we will try to answer the questions that we will be collecting in the chat sector during the whole webinar. So do not hesitate to ask anytime. All right. So if I may ask my colleague Honza, who is here in the background organizing the whole thing, to start the survey, or I think I can. Okay, good. I hope you can see the survey now. And I would like to ask you to answer your background, why you are here, why it is important to you, so that we know what is, let's say, important to you, what we should focus on. Okay, I can see what we have collected about 70% of answers, so we can move on. Oh, there's some more answers coming. right. Okay, so we can see that we have a nice, let's say, combination of all the parts of the industry. We have some FMCG producers. We have people from business consulting, and I'd like to maybe ask the other who they are or what their main area of focus is. That'd be really nice of you, so that we know what to speak about. All right, so. Let's get back to the presentation. Okay, great. So shelf management, what it is, why is it important? So I found some nice definition of shelf management, so I just copied it. And it says that shelf management includes the product placement, the merchandising on retail shelves, as well as keeping products fully stocked and effectively organized. And I think the last part of the sentence is the most important one. And I think that shelf management is composed of four, let's say, parts or components, and that define the shelf management. One of them is space. Space is the definition and the limitation of shelf management. At the same time, it's about operating with the space, reducing out of stocks, challenging the shrinkage and waste management. It's about space elasticity management and logistics, obviously, because the space also is limited in logistics. Then it's positioning. Positioning is about the goods being positioned well on the shelves, rotated, facing the customer. It's about heat mapping of the stores. It's about eye tracking of the customers, knowing where they go, where they don't go, what's appealing to them, and so on. It's about store planning and customer routing within the store, making sure that he sees or she sees the products that we want him or her to see. Then obviously it's about portfolio, about the goods and the products you would like to distribute, the depth of distribution, choosing the right assortment over time. Then obviously the product lifecycle management comes in question, knowing when to launch the product, when to launch a new design of the product. And it's also about the demand prediction, store clustering, and knowing which stores perform well with which products. And in order to be able to do all of this, we need data. So it's also about measurement and analytics of all the above mentioned, knowing how we perform in which store, which product is available at what time, and so on. And then some performance dashboards and analytics that are built upon this information. Obviously, if it all sounds very well right now, but there are many challenges that you all know from your day-to-day business. So let's go to these. And here I'd like to start with some extreme examples of challenges. Obviously, this is not what the everyday store looks like. These are some extremes I'd like to pinpoint. So bad on-shelf availability is the number one problem and question. And obviously, this is an extreme example where no goods are available, and this is very difficult to challenge because obviously there was a mistake in the logistics. For your information, these shelves come from the Netherlands right after the first wave of the COVID virus, and people were just raiding the stores and buying everything that was available there. Then you have some pricing challenges where sometimes the price is not correct or the discount is not presented well. And on these pictures, you can see examples from Walmart, which is infamous with their pricing mistakes. We can say that because most of the people in this webinar are from Europe, I think, or some North Africa or Middle East. So there, I have never experienced such extreme examples of pricing mistakes, but they can happen. And we know from our experience that sometimes the price tag can be incorrect even in our areas. So this is something that we should focus on because obviously the producers are paying large amounts of money for having their products discounted, displayed properly, and priced well. And if this doesn't happen, then everybody's losing money. And the last part is shelf share. This is a picture from Germany, and obviously it's not that somebody displayed it like this. It's an attack of a person who tried to destroy the alcohol in this particular example. But shelf share is something that you have agreed upon with the retailer. It's about you having some definite percentage of the shelf compared to your competition, compared to the whole portfolio, compared to your flavors of products, and especially in the traditional trade, it's sometimes difficult to get these and to make sure that that the situation is like it is agreed on and like it is presented in your contract. So it's very important for all the producers to have their shares as they prefer and as they wish. As I mentioned, these examples are not something you would see every day in the stores. And for this reason, I'd like to go maybe back to the reality and to show you something that can happen, and it's also possible to challenge and change. So here we can see some real shelves. These are Nestlé products in Slovakia. And you can see that some of the products are missing. Some of the products are in the back and they are not facing the customer. Some of the products are completely missing. They are out of stock or shelf. We cannot say just from these pictures, but it's obviously problematic because if we can't see it on the pictures, then neither can the customer. And even the coffee in the middle, it's very, very much in the background, and even the customer cannot sometimes see it and approach it. I mean, there is another product right next to it, but the point is, if it's not right there and if it's not properly displayed, then it can affect the sales. So how can we change this, or how can we deal with this? So obviously the first answer that comes to your mind is to do some store checks, to send the people to inspect the stores, to see if the goods are displayed properly, if the merchandising compliance is okay, if the products on the secondary placements are where they are, and so on. But this is costly. This is very hard to scale. Especially if you have thousands of stores that you are serving, just like Nestlé does in all the countries, including Slovakia, where Mr. Molnar is the head of the whole operations. And these are the, let's say, three main questions you are looking to answer for. And this is if the retail partners display your products the way they should, if the price is correct, as I showed on the pictures before, and if the shelf shares are correct. And I read a lot of studies on this done on different merchandisers and sales reps doing store checks and data collection, and then double checks of these data. And depending on the methodics that you use, the display inspection can be from 15 to 40% invalid or incorrect. There can be made up data, there can be mistakes because they are collected with hands. And it's very inefficient in a way that you have to send the same amount of people to all the stores in order to get the data. So this can be difficult. And why is it important? That's something I would like to recap, because we have I've described it earlier, but there are some newcomers I can see. And I've been discussing this with Mr. Molnar, and he told me that there is just one main reason why everybody does that, and that's selling and achieving sales, because the on-shelf availability makes money. It makes you money if you're the producer. It makes you money if you're the retailer, because if the goods are not there, you just simply cannot buy them. And this is the main idea behind all of this. And no matter how deep you go into discussions, this is what it always comes down to. Obviously, there are some other, let's say, secondary reasons why you should make sure that your goods are displayed in the right amount and in the right fashion. That means they are neatly presented, they are facing the customer the right way. One reason is brand image and awareness, because as a producer, it's very difficult for you to communicate with your customers directly. You can manage some social media channels. You can communicate with different blog posts. You can engage in discussions and reviews, but it's an indirect way of communication. While when your goods are displayed well and properly and in the right and neat amount, it communicates with the customer, and the customer says, okay, this brand is presented well, it's a reliable product, it looks nice on the shelf, I would like to buy that. Another study I read discussed on whether what is the longer impact of sales on sales compared between the discounts and the merchandising. They were comparing the amount of money invested into these two categories, and the outcome of the study says that the impact of right on-shelf availability is longer and more lasting than simply discounts, because if it comes to discounts, people just buy it because of the price. But if the goods are displayed well, then it's something they will buy repeatedly because they can rely on that. And it's very important, especially in low walk categories. Those are categories where people usually don't go, or they don't go there every time they visit the supermarket. And in these, like, if you only get a couple of chances and if your shelf is messy, then it's very hard to re-engage the customer and reconvince him or her to buy your products. And this also accounts for spontaneous purchases, which is somewhat similar to low walk categories. But let's say this is in categories that are high walk, but people do not always buy in these categories. And a lot of, or some of the products that Mr. Molnar is responsible for fall into this category, if I'm not mistaken, especially the chocolate and candies and stuff like that, right? So these are always, and that's why we are challenging this as well together, and to make sure that the goods are available on shelf in Nestlé, because the spontaneous purchase only can happen if the goods are there. All right, let's move on. Let me just go very fast in the comment section if there is some interesting questions that have arisen. Oh yeah, so there is some discussion, but no direct questions, if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, there is some discussion about how this affects the e-commerce. Let me just read it very fast. Oh yeah, how this relates to e-commerce. If the shelf management is applicable topic in the e-commerce, maybe I can go because I'm looking at the time and we are a little ahead of the schedule, so I can make a little break and just discuss on this if you don't mind. I think that, as Peter was saying, it's a way how the e-commerce business can learn from the old fashioned, let's say, but still very relevant brick and mortar, because brick and mortar has been doing it for ages and they know how to communicate with the customer. And in e-commerce, it's all easier to accomplish because you have data on everything. You have data on your customer, what he or she is looking at. While in the brick and mortar, you have to experiment with tools like the goggles that monitor the eyeballs movement and stuff like that, and it's very pricey and it's very difficult to scale. In e-commerce, you have all the data at your finger point and you can just analyze them. So obviously, you can adjust the way that you display your products to each customer separately, based on his history and his login. And this is something that we also are doing in DataSentics. And there are other people who are more proficient in this area than I am. Let's say, for instance, Peter Dvorak, who is discussing this topic in the comments. So definitely, if this is of interest to you, you can connect with him or me on LinkedIn and we can get into this discussion. But I think e-commerce is just the best soil to experiment with all these things. And maybe in the future, we will then learn something from the e-commerce and apply it in the brick and mortar again. So make the full circle. Okay, let's go back into our discussion. And this is something, yes, how do I ensure the on-shelf availability? So now we know that it's important. We know that you should focus on that because unless it's there, you cannot sell. And obviously you are serving many stores, you are serving many retailers, you have multiple categories and sometimes even more displays in one store. You have the primary shelves, you have the secondary placements, and then there is time, very, very important factor, because not all products are sold in the same way throughout the whole week. Some products are heavily sold before weekends or on the weekends. Some products are sold before and after working hours, and so on. And to combine all these factors and come to a conclusion, it can be difficult. So you need to go step by step and make sure that you have answers to all of these bullet points to know where to start your focus, because everybody has a limited resource and everybody has a, let's say, limited capacity of who they can send to the stores to collect the data and then obviously analyze the data. And how is it done? That's probably something that I would like to ask you, if you don't mind sharing with us in the comments, if you have any best practices about how often or how do you choose these answers to these questions, because I will be focusing on that later in the presentation. But now I'd like to maybe get some inspiration or answers from you, or Mr. Molnar, if you could maybe add something to this.
So basically, from my point of view, we have to at the first ensure the basics, and the basics are the home shelf. So that's the first point. What I'm looking in the stores, and I'm checking the exposure of our products. So basically, home shelf is the first point, and then the displays and secondary placement in the stores. So this is very often increasing our visibility in the stores in the first round, and the second round. This is like, let's say, during the promotion, like our secure stock not to go to out of stock with the products. So that's our approach. And on top of this, then the cash desk zones, where we have an impulse product. These are the places in the store which are the third main focus area for our sales reps.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, sorry, I maybe switched to back to the presentation. My apologies. Yes, and this is somewhat, I mean, you in case of Nestlé, you have some sort of order in this and logic. Obviously, Nestlé is the biggest food producer in the world. They have some best practices, but not all companies are at the same level of maturity, and they have different logics and approaches to this. Mm-hmm. And this is something I have learned over my career and communicating with many companies, that sometimes it's, let's say, surprising to see that some companies have an approach that you would not expect them to have, and vice versa. And I mean, it works on both extremes. Sometimes it's the historical reasons. Like, we have been doing this like this for ages. We have this merchandising agency. They have been with us for 15 years, and we just go once a week because that's what we do. Sometimes it's corporate strategy. Sometimes there is a headquarters somewhere, and they just tell all the local branches that the check has to be done in this and that fashion, because there is some strategical reasoning behind that, because you have maybe some tool, IT tool, or some process in place that is aligned with this frequency of data collection. But I believe, and I've been sharing these pieces of information also on my LinkedIn profile in some blog posts, that in order to answer in order to be able to decide when and where to check and how, you need to answer these 3 questions. And so I'd like to go into them and maybe speak a little about these questions and some sub questions of these questions, so that everybody can, let's say, think it over and answer them for him or herself. So this is my product portfolio, and this is how I think I should check on my products. So the first question is when. It means how often should you check on your products? Should it be once a day? Should it be once a week, once a month? What determines this frequency? And we we have we have discussed about why there is some sub questions. We have discussed why should you check on your product, and all these sub questions, they follow the logic of the blog posts. So we have said that without any information from the market, you do not know about your planogram compliance, merchandising compliance. You are investing money into something that, and you don't know if you're getting it. So obviously you need to justify your investment. Then the second sub question, the most important one, I think, is what determines the optimal frequency. And as I said, it differs dramatically from one company to one another. And as I was very surprised to learn, there is no direct connection between the size of the portfolio and the frequency of the checking. Some companies have hundreds of SKUs and they evaluate them once a month. The other companies discussed with us that they would like to have nearly real-time data collection in order to tell if they are getting the value, if the placements make any sense, and so on, even though their product portfolio only consisted about 24 of SKUs. So these are some learnings and some justifications that you have to make for yourself. And the minimal frequency usually copies the merchandising activities. So if you change your secondary displays and temporary placements, let's say once in 2 weeks, you want to make sure that you have the product displayed properly and you are getting the compliance. If it's business as usual, sometimes even bi-weekly or monthly checks come into place. If you have the let's say the sales representative or merchandising team large enough, you can cover all the stores in a month, then you can perhaps live with this. But another thing that is very important here is the category or the products that you're selling. Because if you're selling something that is rarely distorted by the seasonality, then it doesn't really matter if it's Tuesday morning or Sunday night. You're probably getting the same amount of attention, and your products will sell similarly. While if you have a portfolio that is very distorted by the time of the day or by the seasonality, like, I don't know, cider beers or I don't know, like something that is affected by weather. I mean, alcohol in general is a good example. I wanted to avoid this, but it's the first one that came into my mind. So that's something that's very, very seasonal, and also it changes over time. Like fresh food or the packaged fresh like sandwiches are usually sold in the mornings, and then that it goes down during the day and so on. So these are hard to predict just from monthly data collection, and for this you need a higher frequency. While if you have products like, I don't know, olive oil, mineral water, these kind of products, they sell well pretty much all the time because people just buy it during their regular purchase, and for this you do not need that much frequent data collection. And the last part, and then I will pass the word back to Mr. Molnar to maybe share a little insight from Nestlé. Who should consider real-time checking? And by real-time checking, I mean getting data on hourly basis, knowing the data immediately from the point of the data collection. This is usually good for companies that have a lot of secondary placements and that have as I said, the very seasonal goods or goods that sell well in particular parts of the day, and are usually displayed in like fridges and so on, where they need to know if they're getting the value from these placements. And for this reason, we have already done projects with IoTs where you collect data from weight mats that measure the weight of the goods and tell you if people are collecting the cans. In this case, it was beer, but it also worked well for energy drinks we were experimenting with, and you can say if you're getting the value you are expecting from this. So for this, we can set up some infrastructure and install these devices, and this is what we have been doing. But I don't want to jump into some sales activities, so I'll just pass my word to Mr. Molnar to share some little info from Nestlé.
Well, if I should answer the headline question, my answer would be as often as possible. So that would be like easy. On the other hand, there we have to find some balance between cost and efficiency. So means I cannot send in every store in the country every day sales reps or merchandiser because I don't have staff for this and resources. So we have to find balance between the resources what we have and find a way where to send our people to have the higher outcome from every single visit. So this is the key question what we have, how to ensure that we will send the people to the stores where the added value of their job is at the highest level. So and that's the moment what we're trying to answer with this system. So because there are some retailers and this is independently from how good their internal systems are, that some of the stores from the retailers are managed well and some not so well. So and the added value of the people when they are coming in the stores, I don't need to send the people into the stores where everything is going well and the shelves are fully stocked and everything is going like really good. And now I'm speaking about the modern trades. It means the international players that in this type of stores, their added value is near to zero, and I have to see the problems or the stores where we have out of stocks, and try to solve these problems. So if I would answer all these questions, I have to have data where to send my people to have the highest added value from their visits.
Yeah. That's somewhat, let's say, some part of the next questions were answered, and it's really good. So I can see that there was a comment from Mike Price that in India, Unilever used to measure every day in large format grocery stores. Channel, banner, category dynamics, and store-specific attributes can all influence frequency of measurement, and that's very important to pinpoint. That sometimes a lot of factors come into play, and it's hard to pinpoint the very one that determines it. And it surprised me that, I mean, India, I don't know how many stores they were serving, but it must have been a very large operation to measure everyday presence in all of India. So that's a nice way to learn something. I couldn't even imagine such a large scope. So let's go into the next question, and that's the question of where. Because as Mr. Molnar was saying, you would like to check as frequent as possible and as many stores as possible, but obviously it's hard to choose which ones. And should you focus on traditional or modern trade? Maybe I can go a little into the definition. I don't know if it's the same all over the world, but in our area, we understand the traditional trade as some local, let's say, retail chains, where modern trades are usually large retail international chains that have some standardized format and presence and so on. So this is how we distinguish them. Like a Tesco would be an example of a modern trade in our whereabouts. And this is a question that it can only be answered with data, as Mr. Molnar was saying, because you can think that you should focus on the stores where you have the largest sales, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the case, because sometimes you have the best sales in a store that's located in some recently opened supermarket or some shopping mall, and it's well managed because it's a new one. And even though you make great sales there, the on-shelf availability is always perfect, because it's also of their interest to present the goods and sell the goods, and they just know why they're there. Their rent is very high, and they're just doing their best, and you don't really need to pay attention to the store. While there can be a store, a little one in some small town, where your sales are maybe 10% of what you're making in the main city, but they are not paying enough attention to your category or to your goods, and they need some help and they need some more time that you need to dedicate to them and make sure that your goods are sold well. Because if you make this effort, then you are perhaps one of the very few in that store or in that town that has this kind of perfect on-shelf availability, and it pays well, and you can even multiply your sales in that store. So all this is very difficult without the data.
If I may add,
Yes.
the small store, if you have in the countryside, can be that the sales is just a half of this nice store in the shopping mall, but the potential is still there, but it's not well managed, and I have to know it. And without this information, I'm blind, and I'm sending the people, merchandiser and sales reps to the stores when the added value is zero, and I'm missing this small store in the countryside. So that's the point, that I have to have like all the information from the field to properly, let's say, send the people or to dedicate the sources in the stores where it's needed.
Yeah. So thank you for saying this. It kind of confirms that what I've been trying to say, and it's very hard to say without data, and that's something that we somehow do together, because often, and this is something I had to learn the hard way, that the planograms are not always available. And obviously, the easiest data collection will be having the planogram in your left hand and a pencil in your right hand, and just marking the products. This is there and this isn't, but it's not necessarily always the case. So checking the categories with the planograms not available in some stores can be harsh. And for this, we created a tool in DataSentics where you can just take a picture of the shelf and digitalize the information on the picture, and let's say create a planogram from the picture, and then this planogram can be checked regularly. And this is something we will describe more in detail in the case study that will come right after the third question, that is how. And by how, I do not only mean who should be collecting the data, but by how it can also mean by some, let's say, tools, AI-driven tools, IoT tools, and so on. So it doesn't always have to be a person. Sometimes it can be a machine, let's say, as in a simple manner. So obviously, sometimes you have to choose merchandisers. Sometimes you have to choose your sales representatives. And sometimes you can go after all of these, let's say, IoT tools, like I mentioned earlier, the weight mats and so on. In order to determine whether you should go with the merchandisers or if you are fine with the sales representatives, I have learned that also it differs from company to company, and there is no like direct answer to this. But the merchandisers is if you want to check a lot of chains and stores. If you think or you have a suspicion or hypothesis that your product display or on-shelf availability can be very different from one let's say shop of the same retailer in one city and another, while if you feel like the whole chain operates well, then you probably do not need to disperse your workforce so much all across the country. So you should choose a merchandiser if you just need to send them everywhere where your office aren't, where your sales representatives scan the region. If you just want to operate on a big area, there is always a downside to these. Merchandisers are not your people. They often serve different brands, and even sometimes on the same visit, and they are not connected with your brand. So their interest of accurate data collection is sometimes lower. Obviously, they can be remunerated, they can be motivated with money and so on the quality, but it doesn't always work as well as you would like. While the sales representative are your people, they can be directly motivated by you to collect the data, and they have some sort of sense of how the products should be displayed. They know the products. They want the products to be displayed well. So this is the main important part. If you just feel that this presence is very important to you, and you can just focus on some sub areas or subsets of the whole area you're serving, then the sales reps are the right people. And obviously the combination of these can happen, as it happens a lot. So I would like to ask Mr. Molnar if you can add something to this and to your
Well, you mentioned almost everything, but I would say the view of the Nestlé, of the company, because if I would collect all the data by my sales reps, it would be the most expensive way. So obviously this is not the way. So that was the reason why I chose to collect this data through merchandising agency. And sure, there will be some animation for them for the future, and we will see how it goes in the future. But the plan is that to collect the data not from our sales reps, because as I mentioned, this is the most expensive way. So to find different ways. Currently, the only one source what we have is merchandising. For the future, we will see. My boss, for example, is a fan of crowdsourcing, so we will see. Probably this is one of the options for the future. But nowadays, and especially how we see that how the model is working, we have to have somehow trained staff for the data collecting. So it is not so easy to collect all the data in the proper form, to put it as a crowdsourcing or to do it as a crowdsourcing. So I'm pretty happy to have it from a merchandising agency. We made, I have to say, some changes in the setup of the merchandising. So we have the merchandisers that are dedicated to Nestlé. So basically, we are big enough, fortunately, that we can provide them the work that they are serving just one company. And yeah, for the future, we'll see how model will develop and what will be the future. But currently, this is the setup how we are working.
Yes, thank you. And you've started to speak about crowd sourcing of the resources, and this is something that Mike Price also, thank you for being so active in the comments section, has mentioned, that crowdsourcing is a way how to collect data from all around the world, let's say. And I know there is some company in the UK that does this also for the image recognition. But yeah, it's very imperfect, because we know ourselves from our journey in the last couple of months that it takes a lot of time, effort to teach the merchandisers to collect the pictures in a way that they can fit our models and they can be recognized well. And just letting the people do this is obviously possible, but you need to develop some, let's say, sorting models or some pre-models that will tell if the picture is fine, if we can work with it, if it's not blurry, if it's actually products that you're seeing in the picture and not like people's faces, and so that you do not breach the GDPR rules and you have to delete those and so on. So there has to be a lot of computer vision done in advance so that you filter out all the wrong pictures, and then you can work with what's left. But obviously, if you're motivated, if you motivate the people enough to collect the pictures for you, that would be very beneficial. Yeah, and it's a way how to do this.
Also for the future, if the retailers will see the benefits from the whole system, that they will avoid the out of stocks on their shelves. So maybe they will cooperate more on the whole system, and this is also the way that they can also take the pictures and send us as a data, and afterwards we can use these pictures to evaluate the out of stocks, because their natural KPIs is they have also the KPIs to avoid the out of stocks in their shelves, because they are losing sales.
Yes, and I'd like to thank Andrea Tassu for a question, but if you maybe can specify it a little, because Andrea is asking if it's difficult to teach the merchandisers how would the crowd perform but I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly. It was hard to teach the merchandisers how to take the pictures well, because there has to be some distance from the shelf so that the model catches all the pictures and there are not like double catches and so on. We will discuss that later. But if you could maybe specify the question, we can get back to it. So to sum it up, there are three ways how to ensure this. The first and the oldest way is using the retailers and the sales reps, and this is not very scalable and it's hard to evaluate, relying on retailers. Then there is merchandisers, which can be scaled linearly. That means the more stores, the more merchandisers you need. But obviously there is a cap to the resources you have, and they are not very connected with your brand. And then you can get some IoT tools, or you can get some mobile devices to collect the data, and this can be analyzed all at once in huge batches and pretty much from all the stores you're serving at one point. Oh yeah, you've specified the question well. Yeah, and that's something I've been trying to discuss, and I don't want to see problems everywhere. I know that Mike said that fail fast and learn is the way, and I agree. And we also have some tools that, like in our application, we know how to identify a blurry picture, and we know if it's not rotated horizontally and vertically and so on. But there would be a lot of pictures that you would need to dispose of. And it's very hard to estimate how many would be well taken. But yeah, it's a way to do. I mean, to learn and fail fast is very possible in this field. So yeah, launching such a tool wouldn't be a very long process, let's say. But it's very hard to teach the people, even if they're motivated to do so. And in the last part, because we have 13 minutes left, I would like to speak for about 10 minutes about our case study with Nestlé. And in this case study, I would like to speak what we did together. So we were trying to route the merchandisers and eliminate out of stock in stores. We are working with about 500 SKUs in 5 categories. We had the challenge of non-digitalized planograms. So we only had pictures of the shelves and we didn't have any planograms. And we're talking about hundreds of outlets in a retail chain, in a leading retail chain in Slovakia. And one of the challenges for our computer vision technology was that the products look very alike and a lot of portfolio is redesigned often. What we did is we combined some neural networks that detect the product design and size, and they can recognize SKUs in different kinds of packaging. And there is a tool built upon this, and currently it's a Power BI reporting that's automated and runs 3 times a week. And to what the benefits are, we can monitor out of shelf, out of stock, and we're working on the pricing monitoring and the notification of logistics and the store manager if there is some repetitive problem and there's some possibility of recreating the planograms, as I mentioned earlier. And from the data science perspective, it helped us to learn how to identify SKUs in different kind of packagings and let's say different kinds of sizes. This was very hard to distinguish 2 products that look almost the same and they are just different in size and so on. Yes, and how we did this, and this is some little, I don't want to sales, but this is some little part about what we do. And we created a shelf inspector application. It's a mobile application that you use to collect the data from the store. And it's used by merchandisers, also can be used by sales representatives. You log in, you choose your category, you choose your products and display. And then you are led by the application to take the pictures of the shelves. And then these pictures are analyzed by the neural network, and the products are identified, and the data is stored in a database. Yes, and the recognition looks like this. These are some crops of the pictures that Mr. Molnar allowed us to show in this presentation, and you can see those semi-transparent masks over the products that are identifying different Nestlé products in the stores. And you can see we were also able to crack the problem of identifying some sweets and chocolates that are presented or displayed in boxes, which is very hard to identify. But it works to some extent. That's business acceptable. Yes, and on this last screen of this case study, I would like to ask perhaps Mr. Molnar what he's getting from this, or what is the main benefit you can see in this cooperation.
Well, we are using basically, this is the dashboard what we have, and this is used by trade marketing, key account managers, sales representatives. So as I mentioned, the aim was for the sales reps to send the people to the stores where is the highest added value. And for those purpose, we create the metrics, the out of stocks for sales reps, means that we have out of stocks on less than 30% of stores from the whole chain. And this is considered that this is not a problem of the system, internal system of the retailer, but this is the issue of the particular stores. And this should be solved on the local level by sales reps. So as you can see on the bottom of the slide, we have there is a chosen products where are out of stocks, and the sales reps has history that I don't know. For example, last week there was out of stocks, so please let's check the minimum stock what is defined for this product, if it is proper or not, and this is the way how they can fix the issue on the particular store. Then the second metrics is out of stocks for the logistics, means that we have out of stocks more than on the 30% stores from the whole chain, and this we are considering that this is the issue of the systems, and then this is going naturally to our supply chain, and they are checking if we are not out of stock on our distribution center, or there was a low forecast or stuff like this, and we are obviously comparing the stock with the stock on the retailer warehouse. So that's how it is working, and so we have split it these metrics for sales reps and key account managers, and also for the trade marketing we have like view that we can see on a weekly basis the evolution of the availability of each product in all the stores in the chains. So this is like in very shortly how the whole system is working, and how we are sending the people to the stores where they have something to do, at if I would say. So that's it. If Andrei, would you like to add something?
Well, no, you summed it up very well, and you pretty much described all the screens that we have here. You know, the static pictures of the dashboard that is updated 3 times a week. But I think the only thing I would like to add is the question of Tuan Nguyen from the comment section. How are the retailers interested or motivated on cooperation? So that you have the data of the output.
Probably I can answer this. It was like we started with the top-to-top meeting with this particular retailer, and we agreed that the out of stock on the shelf is one of the key KPI what they are measuring also in their supply chain management. So there was a, let's say, common approach, because we can map on the KPI. So that was the start of the cooperation. And currently we have once per week all the information about the stock, how they see the stocks on the particular stores, and we are comparing this data with our data done by our merchandisers. And if we see discrepancy, this is the way that the sales reps are going to solve this.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you also comes from Tuan. And now we would like to ask all the people in the crowd if you could ask if you could answer for us those questions that we ask ourselves in the previous part of the presentation. So if it is obviously relevant to you, the question, how often do you do this, and how many stores of the whole chain you are serving you are actually checking, and who is the person or the tool that is collecting the data for you. It's just for us to know if how the approaches differ from let's say country to country, company to company. So I will leave this on for about a minute or two. Yeah, and also if you're done with answering these questions for us, then you can ask pretty much whatever you think is important to you in the comment section, because we are very close to the end of our webinar and we have about 4 minutes left. So we will try to answer all the questions that come in the last 3 or 4 minutes. I hope I didn't forget to answer any of the previous questions. And there is a question from Marcel. We are undergoing a change of windows at the moment. Oh, I didn't know. I don't know if that's a part of the question or if it's a technical comment. So I'm sorry for that. Yeah, no, I understand. Sorry, Marcel. So how deep is the retailer, producer, wholesaler vertical integration? That's a strategic question that perhaps Mr. Molnar would like to answer, because I do not know.
This is the most frequent question what I get. So currently, the answer is that we are on the beginning of some journey, and to have a, let's say, deep integration, they all the parts of the vertical integration have to see the benefits from this, and there is some vision from our side that we will have an information which will be useful for us, for a retailer, and we will see that, and we hope, and I strongly believe that this will be something that we can go closer to each other to find the mechanism how to avoid out of stocks, and at the end increase the self, and to have more satisfied consumers. So that's
Yeah,
the journey.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, and it's not something that I also I get this question asked, even though I'm not the person that is actually cooperating with this retailer that much, but I mentioned it once in a very relative terms, and people are always surprised. And it's some new kind of approach in retail in general, because as Marcel is saying, there is some level of secrecy always in this, and everybody considers it a business secret, all this information. But this transparency is a way how to, let's say, improve the sales mutually, and the more retailers understand this, the better the sales, I believe. And this is on this note, I think I would like to thank everyone. I would like to thank everyone who was attending, and I would like to thank Mr. Molnar for taking the time and joining us in this webinar. And if you found it interesting, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. My profile is shared at the top of the screen, and you can also find Mr. Molnar on LinkedIn. So thank you. I hope it was helpful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.